Hi everyone, thank you for coming to this webinar about religious education and home education. My name's Rachel and I'm really looking forward to this session because it's one of my favourite topics to talk about. So we're going to break it into 3 chunks this webinar. The first one will be me showing an interview that took place about 8 months actually with Dr. Gemma, who is from Our Muslim Homeschool, and she it was just such a lovely interview and so encouraging and helpful for home educators with whether you've got faith or not, that I wanted to show it again in this session. Then I'm going to be talking about some big principles of religious education and teaching at home, because I do feel it's a little bit different than some other topics. And then we've got Daisy from Twinkl, who's going to go into a really helpful presentation about how we can use resources from Twinkl and kind of the process of teaching about other religions in our home ed. As with all of the webinars, put your questions in the live chat if you're watching right now. If you're watching on catch up, still put comments because we'll get those and we can get back to you. So yeah, enjoy, relax, listen. If you have any questions, you can email us. I'll just pop the email up now. Let's see, where is it? You can email us at any time, and also the presentation that we're going to have at the end we'll be able to put in our Facebook group, so you'll be able to download that and click on all the links and everything. So don't worry about if you miss out on any of the resources that you see and you think, I really want that one, we can make sure you have access to that. So without much further ado, let's have our interview with Dr. Gemma, or just Gemma, I guess, from Our Muslim Homeschool. We will be talking about how faith and home education intersects, but that doesn't mean that if you define yourself as a secular homeschool family or home ed family that you should switch off, but rather that it might be even more important for you to watch. I define myself as a secular homeschooler, even though I'm a Christian too, so I know that can seem contradictory. But the only way we can learn and grow and build community is if we talk to people that are different to us and might have different viewpoints. So even if you are not a family of faith, then definitely keep watching. So I'm going to invite Gemma on. We're going to chat just for the 10 minutes about faith and about all sorts of things. So definitely keep watching. And yeah, I'm just going to invite her on now. I'm excited about this one because I think it's a really important topic to talk about. So I'm a little bit too excited, maybe, I don't know. But let's invite Gemma on. Hi.
Hello. That's a bit better. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's nice to meet you in as much in the flesh, I guess, as we can.
In person, yeah.
Yeah. How's your day gone today?
Yeah, it's been good. How about you?
Yeah, we had my parents visit, so we call it a bonus birthday if they have like an extra birthday celebrations after their birthday. So for one of my kids' bonus's birthday, so it's very exciting. But it does mean that they didn't go to bed very easily because they just, yeah.
Well, you're lucky. Your kids have gone to bed.
Yes.
Mine are still all awake. All of them. All 4.
All of them. I think, yeah, I think mine are younger than yours, so I've got a few years yet, hopefully, where they'll still be in bed on a Friday at 8 p.m. But anyway, tell us about yourself first, and then we'll start the timer and we'll get straight into our talk about faith.
Brilliant. So my name's Gemma, as you said. I'm a homeschooling mum of 4. We live in Liverpool, and we've got kids from 2 through to 12. And I'm also the founder of the award-winning blog Our Muslim Homeschool, and I've got a podcast called Raising Mums.
Brilliant. There's a lot of big list in your blog of all the things you've achieved. So I think people should definitely head over there. I know you've got a lot of good stuff going on, which if we've got time, we can chat about at the end. But I'm going to start the timer now. 10 minutes to talk about faith and maybe some big questions as well. But I think we can manage it. So here we go. The time has started now. So first of all, I know that it can be hard to define kind of where faith ends and home ed begins, because it isn't something that can be compartmentalized. But can you just chat a little bit about how your faith impacts your home ed, maybe on the bigger picture and on the kind of the miniature of the day-to-day as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like you said, we don't compartmentalize our faith. And I think as home educators, we can really grasp that really well, because when it comes to the other areas of learning, most of us don't compartmentalize. You know, we do our science, and then we might pull in a little bit of maths to do with that, and then we'll pull out the atlases and do a little bit of geography to do around that topic, and we'll all head over to the sofa and snuggle and read a library book about that topic, and we've covered a whole variety of subjects there. We're not compartmentalizing it.
Yeah.
So we're sort of weaving in all the subjects together. So faith for us as well, it very much is woven into everything that we do. It seeps into everything. It's our it's our way of life. And sometimes that weaving, it shows up in big ways and it shows up in small ways. So the big ways are the fact that our daily routine is around our 5 daily prayers. Yeah. And the kids go to the mosque on Fridays, and some of the classes that the kids do. Those are the big ways that our faith shows up in our home. But there are also small ways, like these very small, seemingly insignificant moments that add up to what I hope will be a very meaningful experience. And I'll give you an example of that. You know, we had the heat wave recently. Yeah. And with the kids were really excited because they could see the stars at night because the sky was clear. So I gave them the idea. They thought it was their idea. It wasn't. I gave them the idea to sleep outside at night, the older boys. Yeah. I said, why don't you sleep outside tonight? And they took that idea and they ran with it. And they got their tarpaulin out. They were sleeping out under the stars. And, you know, they're boys and they're young boys. So they were messing about a lot. Yeah. And, you know, they did sleep a bit. But what I hope, even if it's for like the briefest moment during that night, is that they looked up at the stars and they just had a brief moment of realization that there's something bigger than me out there. Yeah. That's what I really hope. And I try and create or facilitate moments like that for them. Like in nature, if like we're looking at a flower, and especially with the younger kids, you know, I might say, oh, tell me about the color, tell me about the shape of this flower, what does it smell like, what does it feel like? And then after we're finished with that, I'll just walk away and say something like, as I'm leaving, isn't Allah amazing? And I just leave. And I just leave them with that little idea in their heart for them to like sit with, for them to think on and ponder on. That's what I try to do with religion, especially with the younger kids. It's just, I mean, I'm not a fan of preaching. I'm not a fan, especially of books that preach at kids. I just got too much respect for my kids to do that. But what I do try and do is just facilitate those moments where they can create a deeper meaning. And I do believe even younger kids can do that.
Yeah, I think that's because I think if someone isn't from a faith background, then sometimes it just sounds like systems. And, you know, especially if we don't understand the Islamic faith, we might think, well, it's these 5 daily prayers, it's all this like do this, do this, do this. But it's about living life in kind of awareness of God and the divine. And that can only be like course rather than taught, I think, sometimes as well. So I think that's really helpful to kind of leave plant the seed and then let a kid kind of take them on their own journey with that. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, you're right, because like religion is it's not an academic thing, is it? It's not something that you teach up here. It's something that's in here. And that's something that you really can't teach. You just have to give kids plant that seed and just trust with whatever happens. That's all you can do as a parent.
Yeah, definitely. I really like that. Yeah, I know that'll be encouraging for a lot of people as well, because I think sometimes if you're a parent of faith, you can worry about what the future might hold, but it isn't in the parent's hand, really, is it?
No.
So, yeah, that's really helpful. So the next question, and again, we are getting deeper into stuff, I know. So my neighbour was talking to me about the kind of casual racism and Islamophobia that she just faces, like at the weekly shop in Aldi. And I also know that Muslim families that are school, there's often stereotypes or prejudice around that, and from LAs and from maybe other home educators. And I just wondered if you could talk to us about how all families can combat Islamophobia in our home ed, and what we can do to facilitate kind of a compassion about other faiths, rather than taking on board some of the prejudices that might be around us?
Well, first of all, thank you for asking that question and like bringing awareness to that issue. Thank you so much. I think, there's that saying, I'm probably going to mess this up, but it's children don't do what you say, they do what you do.
Yeah.
So I think that really like the most important thing, and maybe the hardest thing, is to really look at what you're doing and the way you are behaving before you start talking to your kids about certain things. So when you go to the bus stop, do you stop and chat with the Muslim lady who's waiting there, or do you ignore her and chat to the woman who looks like you? Or when you're at a home ed group, do you sit at the table with the mums and dads who look like you? Or do you take the time to go and chat with the Muslim family? Yeah. And whatever faith or other different faith that is. So I think first of all, it comes down to looking at your own behavior, because children really do copy and emulate that, especially in those formative years where their identity is being formed. It's so critical in those ages particularly. And then, there's so many resources now that are available to broaden our horizons. Amazing books. Twinkl, I know, has some great resources on their website. So if like you were watching the news and, the children saw that, it's Hajj now, there's a pilgrimage, all these Muslims are going to Mecca, you could take some time that day to go on Twinkl, get the resources, go to the library and just make an event of that for your kids to dive into that. And again, back to the books, diversify your library at home. Make sure you have books that are written by people of different faiths to your own, or where the main protagonist is somebody who's different from you, who looks different from you. That can be a very powerful thing. And that, I'm really grateful that kind of literature is really growing nowadays. There's a growing awareness of that. So that's fantastic.
It is. I think it's really interesting you said about the bus stop, because my kind of own unlearning was, we moved to Bradford, which has a much bigger Muslim population than where we were before, and I was thinking, how do I interact with someone at the bus stop when I can't see if they're smiling or not? And I just have this well, will I be able to connect with other mothers and so on? And yes, Muslim mothers are always up for talking, and I've never had a problem at a bus stop talking to someone. And also COVID has taught us, we can tell exactly what someone's thinking, whether half their face is covered or not. And it's been the most welcoming group of women that I've actually interacted with in the home ed world. And then now I can ask them what books could we read, or am I allowed to say auntie, or I ask them all the awkward questions because they're my friends now and they don't mind me kind of putting my foot in it a little bit. So I really like that we've got a bit of unlearning to do. Even if we don't think we have those prejudices, sometimes we can be nervous, I guess, of doing it wrongly, but it's the doing it, I think, that's important.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you have any lists of resources or books on your website and so on? I presume.
Yeah, I do have a book list there that you could head over and download. And I can give you a couple of names here. So I think the best books that appeal to all ages are picture books. I don't know. I'm kind of a book in general. Picture books I love because they will appeal to the youngest right through to teenagers if they're well done. So if you want to learn about Ramadan, there's a book called Layla's Lunchbox, which I love. There's a book about Hajj, which is called Yan's Hajj. There's a book, if you don't want a religious one, but you would like a book that has a Muslim protagonist, there's a fabulous book called The Librarian of Basra, which is a true story about this amazing woman in Iraq who, during the bombing there, she rescued all the books from the library and hid them in her house and various places around so that those books were saved during the bombing. So that's a fantastic book as well. You know what, if you'd like, I can come back afterwards when this goes as a post and I can put those titles in the comments.
That would be amazing. Thank you. A friend recommended a chapter book about Omar, and it's kind of his adventures as a 10-year-old kid. My kids love that, and then they were able to connect what Omar was going through and what their neighbours were going through as well. So there's a lot out there. As soon as you start asking, people have got all the recommendations. That'd be great if you could put that down. Yeah, we've got another big question. I was so grateful that you were up for just answering deeper questions, I guess. But this question is about, if you're a person of faith and it's a personal
journey that you're going through as an adult as well. But that journey isn't kind of like straight and stagnant. I'm going to quit the time because I want to ask a question. Sometimes we can have the ups and downs as an adult of faith, or like the struggles or doubts that might come in, because it's a relationship, and it's a bit more, it's not just like ticking boxes.
Yeah.
So if we're going through that ourselves, but we're wanting to guide our children, do you have any kind of thoughts on how we can do that if we're finding things difficult, or if we don't necessarily believe something but we want our children to learn about it? I think there's a lot of parents kind of going through changes with their own religions as well, and then trying to facilitate allowing our kids to grow in that. Sometimes it can feel a bit heavy and complicated, and I wondered if you had any thoughts about that.
Well, I mean, I'm not a scholar, so I can't address, anybody who's having issues with their faith and how you would teach your kids if you're struggling. But the way I see religion, faith, is that it's not about being perfect. That is, your goal is not to be perfect, the perfect Muslim, the perfect Christian. But then that's never going to happen, is it?
Yeah.
Your goal in all of this is just to grow, to do your best, to try your hardest, and for your children to witness that, every day, seeing their mum really trying, seeing their mum trying to be a better person, seeing their mum, when she struggles, when she falls down, she prays, she finds comfort in prayer or whatever it is. That's a far more powerful message than the perfect mum or trying to pretend to be the perfect mum. Letting your children witness you failing and handling that in a positive way, that is a really valuable lesson that will help them in all areas of their life, I hope. And I think home educators can totally relate to this, because to home educate, you don't have to be perfect either. You don't need to be the perfect mum to homeschool your kids.
Exactly.
You don't need to know everything to do a good job at home education. Again, you just need to try your best. You need to have this mindset where you're willing to learn, you're willing to really do what your child in front of you needs at that time. And I think it's the same when it comes to your faith. So just doing your best in the moment.
Yeah, and I think for me, because I used to think, well, I've got to be certain about something if I'm teaching my kids it. But then actually there's a beauty in that uncertainty and the mystery as well of a lot of things, that we can share that with our kids as well, and kind of walk alongside them as you kind of figuring out some of these mysterious things about faith and so on, that are just like, they're very hard to put in a neat little box anyway. So yeah, I think that's really helpful. And as you were saying it, I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what home ed is all about, that we're just figuring it out with our kids, collaborating on it, rather than being the teacher with, here's everything, we've got it all figured out, because it would be a lie. Yeah, thank you so much. We did go a little bit over time, but it happens. Thank you so much. I'm absolutely love talking to you. I know people will be going over to you. I know a lot of people are already followers of yours, but if they're not, it's Our Muslim Homeschool. Definitely go and follow Gemma and check out all of her resources. And thank you so much for your openness and just very practical advice as well. It was really, really helpful. And I hope you have a lovely weekend. But thank you
so much. Thank you. Bye.
So what I thought we could do next is talk about some kind of bigger picture values to do with teaching about religious education, about other faiths in our own homes. And that's because I believe that RE gives us a lot of big ideas, some big questions. So it needs some big principles to guide us a little bit. Now, just a disclaimer, this is my opinion, my thought. I'm doing this on behalf of Twinkl, but this isn't Twinkl's idea. So if you have any problems with it, anything you want to come back at me with, I would love for you to do that, because I'm always learning and growing. So yeah, some big ideas. For example, where do I belong? Who am I? Is this right? Is it wrong? Kind of questions of ethics. Why do bad things happen? What happens when I die? These are big questions for us, never mind our kids. So there are lots of big questions and ideas involved in RE. And I think that does make it a little bit different than, say, learning the capitals of different countries, although that also comes with a little bit of controversy as well, I guess. But anyway, don't want to digress. There are also some kind of our own experiences, our own thoughts that we bring to the table in a much, I think for me anyway, a much more significant way than when I'm teaching my kids about nature studies, for example. So I'm going to go through some case studies. I'm not going to talk much about them. I'm just going to present you as these are genuine experiences that people have, and why I think RE needs a little bit of a different approach at times. So, for example, some people might think this. Honestly, teaching my kids about religion brings up a lot of baggage for me, even some trauma. Just walking into that religious building brings on a panic attack. These are real stories from real people. Imagine coming to the table to teach about a religion and it causes you real anxiety. Next one. I get that it's okay to not all believe the same things, but some of the beliefs of religions I don't just disagree with, I find deeply offensive and harmful. There's that quote, isn't there, that I'm happy to disagree, but when it's something that is harmful to my identity, then it becomes a little bit more complicated, doesn't it? Next one. Members of my family believe very different things, and religion is a source of conflict within my family. Even a simple craft can start a big argument. I taught my kids about a religion, and then we met someone from the religion that said we'd got it all wrong. Where do we even start when religion is so personal? We know that it varies very much from person to person, and so that's a lot of stuff to cover with our kids, and how do we even do it? So for me, I try to think, because some of those things in those slides apply to me and my family, and I've tried to think about some big principles that can help us. Now, we're a little bit unschooly. We're not actually going through a curriculum for RE, but I do want my kids to learn about other religions. And so these are some of the principles that I came up with. You might have different ones, but I thought that this is a great place to start. And I think it should apply. I've tried to make them apply across all families, no matter kind of your home ed style and no matter your religion. But again, you are very welcome to disagree with me and have some discussion in the comments or come back with some questions as well. I would really appreciate that. Anyway, let's have them up. So this first one, acknowledge your bias and baggage. We think of bias sometimes as a negative thing, like, oh, you're so biased. But it's not, it's just a thing. We're all biased. We all have our own upbringings, our own experiences, our own thoughts, worldviews. It's going to impact how we view everything. And also we sometimes have baggage. We might have experiences with religion, or with people who have said they held certain religious beliefs that we bring that all to the table too, literally to the home ed table, and we're unpacking a curriculum with our kids. And we need to acknowledge that bias and baggage ourselves. We need to take time to think about it, to think about whether those are unfair biases, biasi, I never know the plural of that word. And we might want to as well share that with our children. Some of the experiences that we've had, we might feel is relevant to share with our kids so they can understand where we're coming from. So acknowledging your bias and your baggage is really important. And I'm not saying those are right or wrong bias and baggages. I don't know if I've said that right, but it doesn't matter. I'm not trying to say whether those things are right or wrong, but we have to go through the process of looking at them ourselves and being able to name them, I guess. Grow a diverse community. This, I think, is probably the most important thing for our home ed. You need to be meeting a lot of different people, because we know that religion, faith is very personal to people. The more people you meet, the more people that you get to see living their lives of faith out in the community, the more you will learn from them and the more authentic it will be as well. And as you grow that diverse community, as you befriend people and you build relationships, you can be having those kind of conversations that are really going to grow and teach our children. I use that word grow because it takes a lot of effort. We can't just kind of walk into a community and say, like, that's it, I've got my token, like 1, 2, 3 different people, that counts. Growing takes a lot of time, cultivating, hard work, sacrifice on our part, and kind of give and take. So it's not an easy process. That's not one that we can just tick off each week, but it's an ongoing thing, but very important. I think if we want to genuinely, authentically teach our children about different religions. Celebrate uncertainty. I feel like this is the one that some people might disagree with me on. This is something that I used to just generally as a teacher not want to be uncertain about things, or I wanted to be one step ahead of my kids, and I wanted to be able to say, this is what I think and this is why I think it, in kind of facts and figures, but also in terms of my own life and how I viewed religion. I kind of had a, this is true, this is true, this is true, this is not true. It was very black and white. And as I've got older, I've come to celebrate that uncertainty, that there are times and we just don't know the answers. And I think that's an excellent thing to teach our children, that we don't always know the answers, that we might not be able to get to those answers. And the aim of faith, I believe, isn't to just have a nice, neat box of, this is what I believe. It's more complicated than that. So I think we should celebrate that with our children. Next one, model respectful dialogue. And I don't really think I need to unpack that much. That's just something that when we think about literacy and language arts with our kids, this is what really is at the crux of it, that we want our kids to be able to communicate with compassion to other people and listen. And that just starts with us modeling it as well. So definitely something that if we're working on just generally is going to have a big and positive impact on learning about other faiths as well. Embrace the power of stories. If you've watched me on any of my Pathfinder things, you know I love telling stories. But I don't just mean kind of fairy tales. I mean the stories of our upbringing, the stories of our culture, stories that might be true, stories that have truths in them. In essence, perhaps faith and religious education are all about stories, true stories, and stories that just help us understand the world around us. And I think that that's a powerful place to start with our kids, sharing our own stories, listening to the stories of others, reading a diverse selection of stories from other people. And in doing so, that's going to very powerfully connect the different parts of our brain, where we've got our feelings and our emotions on one side, and then on the other side, maybe more logic, telling stories. So I've been told helps connect those two sides of the brain a little bit more. So embrace the power of storytelling. If you don't know where to start by telling a story. Anyway, I'd love to know if people have any other principles I think would be helpful. You can pop those in the comments, or you can just send it to us afterwards and we can have a blog where we discuss all of this stuff. So what Okay, sorry, I'm pressing all the wrong buttons here. Let me just get this right. Here we go. Get rid of old Rachel there and just have me. There we go. So we had that great interview with Dr. Gemma. I hope you found it as encouraging as I did 8 months ago and rewatching it there. We've talked about some big principles. Now we're going to get down to the finer details, and Daisy is going to share lots of resources and kind of a model for teaching RE in your home ed. So I'm going to hand over to her.
Hello and welcome. My name is Daisy and I am the RE product owner at Twinkl. I've come along today to speak to you about religion and home education and hopefully offer you some support on how to teach religion at home as a home educator. We have a wide range of resources on site to support you with teaching your child about religion. However, there are that many, it's quite a vast collection. You may be sitting there thinking, well, where do I start? So hopefully I can offer some guidance on that. You also may be sitting there thinking, I don't feel as confident teaching some religions as others, my subject knowledge isn't that strong. Or if you follow the national curriculum, you may also be considering, well, where is RE? It's not on the national curriculum. And that's because each local authority has to create its own SACRA, which is a curriculum of work that each local authority and the schools within it have to follow at school. So hopefully I'll iron out a few of those issues and give you some examples of some resources you can use at home to support you. I may even introduce you to some new resources that you've never seen or didn't know existed at Twinkl. But it is really important to teach religion at home and different worlds to support your child with gaining a better understanding of the world, to inform them about what respect is and help them to understand how to use and learn about respecting others, and also to gain a broader understanding of beliefs and views as well. So to start off with, we will start with this question here. So where do I start with teaching religions and worldviews? And like I said, there are that many resources at Twinkl, you may feel a little bit overwhelmed. So I'm going to structure this next couple of slides to show you how you can start with one idea, and that will then branch off into other ideas and then lead on to other subjects as well if you want to look at cross-curricular. So to start off with, I think the best place to start when looking at religions and worldviews is either a festival, celebration or event. At Twinkl, we have quite a few resources available, such as event calendars and whole term overviews, which I've listed on the screen now. They will include events that are up and coming in that term or in that month, and it's a good chance for you to take a look at, well, it's April now, what religious events or non-religious events and festivals are coming up? Where can I start and look at teaching my child about certain religions? We also have the Twinkl events calendar, which I've popped a link on this slide too, and you will be able to access these slides soon and access then all the links that I've linked everything to. All the images as well inside this slide deck are clickable links as well to that resource. So if you would like to look at the spring overview there, you can click on that and it should take you to the resource on site. So hopefully that will also help as well. So going back to events and festivals and celebrations, how I would start your religion teaching at home as a suggestion would be to think about when you want to cover a certain religion or when you want to plan in your religion teaching at home. Look at that month and see what religious celebrations and festivals there are, and just pick one, maybe one that you've never heard of before, or ask your child to just choose one, and then you can look at it together. And then from there, we have a range of assemblies and PowerPoints on all the different religions and religious events, celebrations and festivals that you can click on and access. Delve a bit deeper into that celebration and event and see what the important parts are, why it's important to the person who follows it, and just give you a bit more of a background information. Then if you want to consolidate your child's learning, we have plenty of activities and worksheets on site. We have resource packs and teaching packs, which contain the PowerPoint and activities too. Or you could have a look at some of our sequencing cards. And then this is where you can bring in some of your English teaching, and you could create some writing activities where they rewrite the story, or you may look at it from a reading angle and look at retelling the story and sequencing the story. Or you could look at how we can make religion fun when we're teaching it. It doesn't always have to be boring, and I feel religion is such a good topic to look at home and in school and think outside of the box. And it's not one of those subjects where you can just sit and just write all the time. It's a subject that you need to go and experience things and look at things firsthand and get involved. It's such a subject that your child can be immersed in, and we can definitely make teaching religion fun. But to support you with that, we have colouring sheets, word searches, games. Some of them are interactive, some of them printable, like the Eid al-Adha board game there. And then if you wanted to just do a standalone quick lesson on consolidating or delving deeper into that religious celebration or event, you could then have a look at an activity worksheet that we've got, where it would probably ask your child and question your child's understanding on the celebration and the event and delve deeper into the religion itself as well. So far, you've got an idea that we're going to look at an event. You've then looked at it in more detail through the use of a PowerPoint and then consolidated their learning through activities and worksheets. But another way that you could start it to gain a hook into the subject is through an originals book. Now, we don't have many on site at the moment covering all of the celebrations, but we do have quite a good selection, and there are a few here on screen at the moment. So this is also a good point. So if you wanted to look at Ramadan, you could start, instead of with a PowerPoint, you could start at looking at Ramina's Ramadan and reading that to your child. And along with all of these books there are supporting resources, but again, you could also use what resources we have on site as well. I've just put an example here of Ina's Vasaki. The RE team have just worked on this alongside the Originals team. So the Originals team created this beautiful book, and if you haven't read it yet, it's definitely worth a read. It really does help the children understand why Vasaki is important to Sikhs and the whole process of the celebration and what's involved in celebrating Vasaki. And then below it, I've just listed a few activities and extra resources there that you could complete with your child to support them with Vasaki. And I've linked it there just in case you wanted it. But yeah, so you could, instead of starting with a PowerPoint, you could start with an Originals book. Now, these on site are Key Stage 1 based. We do have a few Key Stage 2 ones as well. However, I think I love reading these as an adult, so I do think older children too would really enjoy them, especially if you're going to learn about this religion with all of your children who vary across different age ranges. It's a really good place to start, and then you could maybe look at PowerPoints and moving on to activities and such then. So then you may be thinking, right, so I've looked at my event celebration. Where am I going to go next with this? I'm going to, in the next couple of slides, I've outlined one celebration in particular, and then I'm going to show you how I moved through the different stages looking at these different areas within the religion. So this will become clearer in a little bit when I go through those slides. So you could then, after you've looked at the event celebration, you could then look at teachers, leaders and followers within that religion. You could look at the teaching and practices, where the place of worship is, what's the religious scripture, are there any other stories or any other celebrations and festivals within that religion that I want to look at. So then you can, those are like the different topic areas that you can then branch off into once you've looked at the event and the event. So the next couple of slides is just an example I've based around the Sikh festival of Vaisakhi. I've chosen this because we're in April now and it was in this month. So I just thought it was a good place to start. I, first of all, picked out a few resources online on our site that I thought would be really good to begin the teaching of the celebration to help my child understand what Vaisakhi is. So I picked out a PowerPoint, a word search and some colouring game sheets. So once you've decided, like I have, which celebration you're going to go for your resources, I would also recommend looking at photos and videos celebrating online. We do have online some display packs that you can use, which have images of the celebrations and the different celebrations. So that would also be a good resource to use alongside this. But definitely watching videos. Think about how else you could immerse your child in this celebration. So think about, is there anything locally that's happening? Are there any local celebrations that you can join in with, or using social media, you may find local celebrations that you could take part in. If not, and if you live close to Birmingham, I do know that Birmingham have a yearly Vaisakhi festival in the city centre, which is a good place to then possibly take on a day trip out with your child and have a look at how Sikhs celebrate Vaisakhi. However, if that's not possible because you live too far away or for other reasons, another way of looking at this is thinking about the local place of worship, which in Sikhi is the Gurdwara. So could you visit your local Gurdwara and ask practicing Sikhs how they celebrate Vaisakhi, and then they could give you some information that way. When you're looking at teaching religions at home, it's really important that you're always questioning your child and always opening up the opportunity for discussion. Religion is such an important area where we could talk about and open our feelings up about things and finding links to different religions, and that will then help your child understand different beliefs and values and also support their understanding of what respect is and developing that too. So with this celebration, you could ask, is this festival similar to any celebrations or festivals they've learned in the past, or any that they've been to before, and then compare it to those festivals and celebrations, what's the same, what's different, and so on. So once you've looked at the festival in great detail, you may have visited the Gurdwara at this process, but if not, you could think about looking at visiting the Gurdwara then. And on site again, we have quite a few resources for each religion, showing the different places of worship. It's really important to look at what artifacts may be able to place of worship and understanding why they are important in that religion. And then I've just added a question on here: what is the importance of the Langar kitchen, which is an area within the Gurdwara, which is really important to Sikhs. So it's also might be an area that your child may be really interested in, and another route to have a look at and go down. I want to know what's happening in the Langar kitchen, and why is there a Langar kitchen? Why is it important to Sikhs? Again, make sure you're looking at images, watching videos to find out more information. You may have a local Gurdwara in your area, so you can go and visit it and talk to practicing Sikhs again, asking them questions, and that's where you will find out more information and be informed about the importance of this place of worship. So again, it's probably how you teach your child at home, but you may follow your child's own interests then, and they may be really excited about the Gurdwara and want to know what other places of worship there are in your local area. So that's when you can then branch off into different religions and maybe go visit your local synagogue or go and visit your local mosque. Or if your child is still really, really interested within Sikhi, you can then look at them branching off into other areas. So for example, looking at religious scripture, which is the Guru Granth Sahib Jai for Sikhs. And excuse me, this is really important within Sikhi, and there is a special place within the Gurdwara where the Guru Granth Sahib Jai is, and your child, if you go and visit the Gurdwara, may ask questions about this and be intrigued and want to know more. So again, there are resources on site, as I've tagged here, which will support you with this. But there may be some other questions that may pop up that you may not have the answer to. So for example, why when I search it on an internet, on a search engine, is Sahib Jai not added to the Guru Granth Sahib all the time? And Sahib Jai is just a way of adding extra respect. So you will notice some of our resources in Twinkl, we are building on this, but we are beginning to add Sahib Jai at the end of all of the Guru's names, just as a sign of respect. Your child then may want to know, well, what is a Guru? Why are Gurus important within Sikhi? And you could then go off to then think about, this leads you to the next topic, which is teachers, leaders and followers, and you can then lead on to looking at the 10 Sikh Gurus. So again, looking at who they are, why are they important to Sikhi, explore any other important teachers, leaders, followers within that religion, or again, your child may think, oh, so if Sikhi have Gurus, are there any important people in Hinduism, or are there any important people that we need to learn about in Christianity? So that's when you could then again branch off into different religions, or your child may just be really, really interested still within Sikhi and learning about the Gurus and the stories behind the 10 Gurus, that would lead you on to looking at religious stories within Sikhi and looking at the messages behind these stories and how these stories guide Sikhs in their day-to-day life. And then again, making sure you're constantly finding links, having that discussion with your child. Are these stories similar to any stories you've heard before? Have you heard any of the messages similar? Are they different? What do you like about the stories? Could you apply any of these messages in your daily life? How does this improve you as a person? So just always constantly asking questions and trying to link to other stories. And again, if you have a passion for religious stories, you can then branch off into different religions and look at Bible stories or religious stories in Islam or in Buddhism. And then finally, we have teaching and practices. So if you are going to decide to do a whole area on Sikhi and a whole subject and spend time learning about Vaisakhi and then want to know more about the religion, Looking at the teaching and practices is really important, just so your child has a better understanding of what the main teachings of Sikhi are and how do Sikhs lead their life, and are there any routines. Looking at artifacts and prayers, again, you could bring that into the Gurdwara if you're going to visit the Gurdwara. What's important in a Sikh's life, that you could bring in, again, your religious stories, looking at how Sikhs use the messages in those stories to lead their life. And we have plenty of resources, including PowerPoints, activities, word cards, to support you with that. And then finally, you may get to the end of your area, your topic on Vaisakhi, and your child's really been so enthusiastic about it and wants to learn even more. So you can look into what other celebrations or festivals there are within Sikhi. So you could look at the rites of passage and the different rites of passage. So you could look at how Sikhs celebrate birth or baptism or marriages. You could also look at Holla, which is another Sikh festival. And then again, you can then start to get your child to compare the similarities and differences between these different celebrations. Or you may just decide, actually, let's have another look at a different festival or celebration in a different religion, and then repeat the whole process again. So once you've done all of that, and you may come to the end and think, well, now it's time, I want to learn to teach my child about a geography topic or a history topic, do I just completely stop and go on to something new, or can I create some cross-curricular links? And the good thing with RE is you can create lots of cross-curricular links. So you can create cross-curricular links within geography. So once you've looked at Vaisakhi in detail and within your local area or within England, you could have a look at how Vaisakhi is celebrated around the world. And then looking at the different countries that celebrate Vaisakhi, and then going off and looking at it from a geography angle. You can include design and technology. Lots of festivals and celebrations celebrate by eating lots of delicious food, and lots of celebrations have certain foods within their celebration. So at the top one there, we've got the milk rice recipe. That's for celebrating Bodhi Day. So that's for Buddhists. So you may want to make that if you're looking at Bodhi Day with your child. So again, still working within looking at the religion and the celebration, but then branching out into the different subject areas too. You could also look at art and how religious art is depicted, look at the styles and the patterns, and get your child to create their own version of the art. There's lots of opportunities for crafts within religion, creating gifts or cards to celebrate and just say thank you or congratulations or good luck, or just to wish good wishes to whoever is celebrating that celebration. There's also links with maths. So for example, you've got the Rangoli patterns, you've got repeated patterns and shape and space. You can look at Islamic patterns and look at the shapes used, and if there are any repeated patterns in there too. And then there's also links within history with the Golden Age of Islam, and other areas within history where religion has changed something within history and has become an important part that we now study. So there are lots of different areas you can branch off into as well, from just looking at a religious celebration. Will lead you to many different places. Now, some of you may be sitting there thinking, well, this sounds really exciting, but it still does scare me a little bit, and I feel like I need a little bit more guidance and structure when teaching my child about religions. So do you offer anything to help us? And the answer is yes. Now, we have a planet curriculum, which is called Planetary, and it was originally designed for teachers to use in the classroom, but it will also have incredible value to you as a home educator as well. It is a fully resourced curriculum that contains plans, PowerPoints, activities, games, quizzes, knowledge organisers, and much more. And there is actually another webinar happening about Planet, which you can, if you're really interested in this, after I've spoke about it, you can then join that and have a listen to, which will go into more depth than what I am now. But today I will just solely look at this from an RE Planet perspective and what we offer in the RE team. And what we offer in the RE team may be different to what History Planet or Geography Planet will offer, just so you're aware. But I just thought I would bring it up because some users may prefer this route than just following interests of your child. It depends on your teaching style at home. Even if you do follow the interests of your child, Planet RE may be helpful as well, because you could just pick out certain lessons and unit packs and use them within your teaching at home. So it is structured, but you don't have to stick to that structure if you don't feel like you need to. It's there if you need it, and I just thought I would show you just in case this is something that you were interested in. So at the moment, we are currently in the process of adding new and updating some of our older unit packs within Planet. So you may find some of the newer and updated packs have some additional resources that the older packs don't. So in our newer packs, we have knowledge organiser quiz packs, which consolidate learning. It's a bit of an assessment. And then we are also adding 3 interactive games and quizzes too. If you prefer the bit of structure, we have the RE Deep Dive Whole School Progression Map. And on there, if you scroll down to the bottom, it does show the order in which you can teach the Planet RE. But like I said, with the joys with RE Planet, which is probably different to other Planet packs, is you can just pick and choose which you think will suit your child and what you're learning about at home. So just a quick overview what's included in a unit. So you'll get a unit overview which will list all the lessons in that unit and give you a brief description of what each lesson is about. You'll receive 6 individual lesson packs, but some of the newer ones will have 7, because we just find if we are looking at a unit that covers more than one religion, we want to include as many religions as possible so that schools can pick and choose the religions that they teach at schools, because not all schools teach all 6 major religions. But that option is there as well if you wanted to look at a celebration. For example, the commitment pack looks at weddings and you wanted to look at weddings within Hinduism, then that may be the additional lesson, which wasn't there before, that you can now pick up and use. We also have knowledge organisers. I've spoke about the knowledge organiser quiz packs, assessment packs, home learning tasks, additional resources, and interactive games and quizzes, but only on new ones. Like I said, some of these resources you may not be applicable to you. You may not want to use them, and that's absolutely fine. The joys of Planet RE is you can pick and choose what works for you. And I think this is one of the most important things that will be of interest to home educators, is what's inside a lesson pack. So you can download from Planet a whole unit pack, or you can download individual lesson packs. So I've just taken here, this is a lesson pack from Year 5 Commitment, and it's based on fasting. And when you download it, you will receive a PowerPoint, a lesson plan, and then an engaging activity. So if you were going to go and work through the model I've just shown you by thinking of an event and celebration and covering that, so you may look at Ramadan and may decide, I want to cover Ramadan, I would like some support with teaching fasting, or I'd like to teach my child about fasting and have a lesson on that. You could then literally just pick this lesson up and then teach it to your child. So you could use Planet also for that, so following the same example as before, but just picking out what you need. So what else do we have to offer to support you with teaching religion? So I've gone through the basics of PowerPoints, the Planet packs, lesson plans, activity sheets, and so on. But there may be other resources that you're not aware of that we have on site. So we do cover a range of religions and worldviews, as you can see here. And we also cover a range of resources, a range of events, festivals and celebrations, both religious and non-religious. And you can find those resources there. So they are clickable links on the slide. When you click on these links, though, it will provide you with not just RE resources. You will have resources that are linked to maths and English based on that event or celebration. So if you're looking for cross-curricular links within a religious event or celebration, then that's a really good place to go to as well to find more of those resources. We also have animated and interactive resources. So I've spoken a little bit about our interactive games and resources. Here are some examples. So you have a places of worship synagogue labelling activity. We've got the Gurdwara labelling activity. We also have some hotspot activities where you basically hover over the little hotspots and it tells you more information. And we have quite a few of those for the different places of worship. We've got animated videos for our religious stories, for events and celebrations, and just general religious stories as well. There are a small selection of ebooks at the moment, but we're hoping to build those in the future. And then you also will find some educational videos and video lessons. So when looking at a celebration, so for example, Vesak is on there and you want to know more about it, and I said immerse your child in as many different resources as possible, not just PowerPoints and ebooks. You could also ask them to watch the lesson there and it'll explain more. You could also then, there are some dancing lessons, that was for Navaratri. So if you wanted to learn more about a certain religion, and that's a religion within a celebration within Hinduism, and you could then have a cross-curricular link with PE, and there's a dance lesson there to take part in as well. There are some videos of tours of places of worship which are really helpful, and explore what it's like to visit a mosque as well. So there's plenty of things on site that can support you with teaching religion at home. Another fabulous resource which we have on site are AR and 3D models. Now, some schools have artefacts within their cupboards which they can show the children, but sometimes they don't. And at home, you may not have access to these as well because there are quite a few. This is when 3D models and AR models come in handy. So you can take a look at these different artifacts. I've popped a link on there so you can see what we have available at the moment. So for example, if you took the menorah, you can click on it and you can maneuver it so you can see what it's like all the way around. And then it's a really good tool to develop discussion again and questioning. So these are really, really good when you're looking at certain festivals and celebrations, or if you're looking at places of worship or the teachings of a religion, to have a look at these artifacts. And it's a really good discussion point and find out, and a good place to start and think about, well, why is this important in this religion? And allow you to think about how to find out more about that certain artifact. So the question is, where will I find all of these resources? I've linked the AR models on the last slide because it is in a different area. But if you're looking for specific religion resources, you need to go along the top bar at the top of the Twinkl website. And I've just highlighted there, Key Stage 1. If your child is a Key Stage 1 age, you can click on there, and then there's a selection for RE. Click on that, and that will bring you to the RE landing page, which looks like this. I've recently redesigned this, so it does look a little bit different to the Key Stage 2 landing page, which I'll show you in a minute, but I will be working on redesigning that as well. I'm hoping this new layout will reduce the amount of clicks you need to get what you want, and it's a lot clearer to see what we have on offer. And then again, for the Key Stage 2 landing page, along the top bar at the top on the main website, if you click on Key Stage 2, go down to topics and religion, or subjects are in religion, it'll bring up this page. And as you can see, this is the Key Stage 2 landing page, and it is very different. It just lists the religions. But hopefully within time that will be changed. And then for Planet, again, it's along the top page, the top bar on the main homepage, Twinkl homepage. If you click on planning, it will take you to another page where you can scroll down, click on RE, and then it'll bring you to the main RE page here. As you can see on this page, this is the main RE landing page for Planet. You can clearly see which units are new and which ones are updated, so you know that they will contain the new resources, so the Knowledge Organiser quiz pack and also the interactive games and quizzes. I've just linked them there as well, just for ease if you prefer, just to have a document click on it and it'll take you there. So like I said, all the images in this slide deck are clickable links and will take you to the resources that you are looking at. So hopefully that will help. If you have any other questions though about RE, you can contact CARES and they will be happy to help. If there's a question that they cannot answer, it will be redirected back to me and I will reply back. But hopefully that was a quick whistle-stop tour about how you can teach religion at home, bringing it from an event, an idea of an event or celebration, looking at your calendar, what's happening this month and what's happening next month, and what do we want to learn about. And like I said, the good thing with RE and teaching religion is there are so many different areas within religion and topics that you can look at. You can follow your child's interest and go off in any direction. There is no right or wrong direction because there's just so much out there. You can just go for whatever you feel your child is interested in or what you feel as a home educator is important to you. So thank you for listening. Like I said, if you have any further questions, please contact CARES and they can help you. If not, it'll be redirected to me and then I will help you then. I hope this has been helpful and good luck with your home learning at home, your home educating, sorry, at home, and have a lovely rest of your day.
Do this every time, put myself on mute. That was really interesting and very thorough. So it's pretty much covered everything you might need from RE. And what I really liked was the way that you can be really responsive to what's going on in your community and what your kid is really interested into. So get in touch with us or get in touch with Twinkl Cares, whichever way suits you best if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching and have a lovely evening.